Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Talk. It's Bob. Thanks for coming back. Today, we're talking about giving a speech. Come on, let's talk. Hey, thanks for coming back to the podcast. Katie, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing great.
Today's talking about giving a speech.
This is, I think, relevant to everybody listening today.
I got to tell you, I've gotten so many messages on different platforms after our videos have come out. And some have been from people that have seen me give speeches, but others have said, hey, can you talk about giving a speech, and what you do to set up to give a speech? So I think it's a good topic.
I think so too. But I've probably seen you give hundreds of speeches, and you do it differently than most.
What do you mean?
Well, one example is I don't think I've ever seen you stand behind a podium to deliver a speech.
I hate podiums.
But you walk the stage left to right, and you do it in a way that's it comes off very calm, very comfortable for you. Very at ease. But it holds the attention of everyone in the audience.
I hate podiums, and if I could have everywhere I go to give a speech, just take it off the stage. But I think podiums, before we even get into talking about all this stuff, they hide half your body. And so if you're in any way showing emotion when you're talking, people can't see any of that. All they see is this, upper part of your body talking and droning on. And I think we've all been in a lot of speeches, at least I know I have growing up or in the government or even in the private sector where 5 minutes into it, you want to poke your eye out with a pen. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, oh my God, I don't care if that guy or gal is talking about the most interesting thing in the world.
But it becomes boring just watching somebody standing
boring and
there.
Just stagnant.
Yeah.
It's hard for people and I just don't like podiums. There's a lot of things I don't like, honestly, when it comes to giving a speech, and maybe we'll talk about them all. But the walking the stage thing, honestly, years ago, and it's why rock bands do this. I'm a big, I love classic rock music. Anybody knows me knows that. But what does the singer do? They go all over the stage.
Moving around, yeah.
What's the lead guitarist do? They go all over the stage. Why do they do that? It's the same reason why I do it. It's because all of a sudden, the people sitting front row center sees me, but the people sitting to the left see me 2 minutes later. And I'm standing right in front of them. If you watch, I go right out to the edge of the stage.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes my feet or the front of my feet are hanging over the stage because I want them to show through body language, I want to be there. I want to connect with you. And then I'll go to the other end of the stage. And I've done it so much over the years, giving speeches, and I have given a lot of speeches all over the world. It's now I don't even realize I'm doing it. Matter of fact, if I tried to hold myself in one place, I think it would feel uncomfortable. And I think one of the major things we probably should touch on somewhere through this is the reason I don't feel uncomfortable doing it is because I've done it so much. And that's what it really comes down to. You have to do this over and over and over and over, and you have to practice and you have to critique yourself. But podium, I don't like it. If you're going to go out and you're going to give a speech, get rid of it. And at first, you're going to feel uncomfortable. People used it for a crutch.
Yeah, it's almost like a false sense of security for them.
Well, and it's between you and them, right? You get some psychiatrists in here, they'll tell you that. Like, it's a crutch. It's separating you from the audience that you're petrified of. And that's one thing you'll get over only with time. You have to talk, whether you're talking to 2 people, 5 people. I think the biggest audience I've talked to outside of on some global media thing, but in person in an auditorium, 1,000 people, 1,200 people, I could care less. I could care less if it's 5,000 people. Like I honestly, it wouldn't bother me at all. But you don't start out like that. You know what I mean? So I hate podiums. The walking around, I think, is a big deal because it brings you closer to the audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's interesting when you think about giving a speech. I just got done, was meeting with a group of executives talking about different formats, doing a media interview, doing testimony in front of a federal or state body. A lot of people have more nervousness and anxiety speaking to an internal audience versus an external audience. And why? I think it was, because externally, you're likely the subject matter expert in the room. Internally, you have the competition of your peers, people trying to show off in front of leadership or the boss, things of that nature, But it was a surprising insight shared by one of the people in the room. What causes that anxiety, and internally, an internal audience maybe more so.
I think people are always scared of failure. That's natural. I think also people are always scared of being critiqued. I think you got to get over that. If you want to be good at speaking or really anything, you should be the toughest critique of how you just did. I don't care if everybody pats you on the back and says it's the best speech I've seen in the history of the world, right? You need to go someplace, quiet, sometime not long, shortly after it, and in your head kind of run through what I did right, what I did wrong. I actually think it's good, these internal communications, where I agree with you. I think people are much more nervous about that because you're with your peers most of the time. And by the way, those people that you're talking to probably know what you're talking about. So if you jack it all up or you screw it up or you don't know, they're going to call you on it. But I actually think that's good. It's like kind of, it's a school of hard knocks, learning. And by the way, it might only be one or two people, right? And so I think you use that as a learning point. And I think also you start to practice how you're going to communicate, not just with what you're saying, but with your body language. You don't need to say a lot to draw people in or let people know that what you're talking about is important. But I think you learn from that. I think I've given speeches all over the place. I don't know how many boardrooms, keynotes, all over the place.
Small groups, large groups.
Oh my God, British Virgin Islands, Singapore, London, wherever, Australia, all over Australia. The fundamentals don't change. You got to remember, in most of those speeches outside of a corporate environment or you probably know more about what you're talking about than anybody else in the room because that's why they asked you to come talk. And I think that should give you confidence. I don't think people look at it that way. I think immediately when somebody says to a person, hey, I need you to give a speech in front of the board, or I need you to give a speech in front of your colleagues, or hey, will you come do the keynote in Sydney or Brisbane or Melbourne or wherever, immediately people go, oh God, is a speech. That's not how you should look at it. But I will tell you, I think that comes with time. It's no different. I'll go back to my rock band thing. Those guys played 1 million bars before they got up in Carnegie Hall.
Yeah, good point.
Right. And so I think people think this is easy and it's just done naturally. Maybe some people are. I don't think a lot. I think this comes over time and it's practice and it's critiquing and building yourself up and getting away from the crutches, get away from the podiums, get away from, I don't want to go near the audience. If I had a way of being elevated so that people could actually see me, I would walk around in the audience. I'd walk down the aisles. The only reason why I don't do that is because half the audience will never see me because you're not elevated. That's the only reason I stay on a stage. I would never stay on a stage. I would walk down. I don't even get off the stage to talk to the group because now the guy in the back or the girl in the back can't see me.
Right.
And so there is planning to this and logistics, and that comes with time.
I think, but just to pause there, knowing your audience is something that I've heard you stress over and over again.
I mean, that is so key. Maybe we take a minute on this because let's give some good examples, right? And I'll give you a real life example. I was asked several years ago to give the keynote to the Black Hat Conference in London. Now, those of you who don't know what Black Hat stands for, right? You have bad hackers and you have good hackers. Now, there's a blurry line there anymore. So Black Hat could be the bad guys, White Hat could be the good guys. And there'll be 1 million comments about this after we talk about this. That's kind of blurred all now. You can actually have good, bad guy hackers that actually try to attack your company, for good reasons. But it blew me away when they asked me to come do this. And there's probably 800 hackers.
Were you in government at the time? Or
no, I was in the private sector. But
your background is all like FBI and
cyber
law enforcement.
And, Ed Snowden, and so, but it was kind of funny because the only reason why I said yes is because I thought this could be kind of neat.
Yeah.
And I literally started the speech, and anybody who was there will remember this. I got up and all these guys, and again, this is knowing your audience, right? And I did this intentionally, is I went up on stage in a suit, no tie, but like a button-down shirt. And I know all these dudes and dudettes were in hoodies.
Yeah.
Right. And I know the minute I walked up on that stage, you're like, oh God, here comes the uptight ex-FBI guy. This is going to suck. And I went right up to the podium, took the mic off of it, walked right to the front of the stage. And I go, thank you so much for inviting me. I recognize a lot of you. I've probably arrested most of you. And the whole place just starts cracking up.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wait a minute, maybe this guy's not that uptight. And then I immediately took my jacket off, hung it over the podium, and we talked about cyber. The speech was supposed to go 45 minutes. I think the question and answers went for almost an hour. Right? I was only being on stage, no longer fit, but they kept letting it go. But my point is, it's so important to know your audience. And by the way, most of the time, you know this way in advance. It's days, weeks, months in advance. If you're going to a technology conference and you're going to talk about really minute technology stuff, don't show up in a suit and tie.
Yeah.
People do. No one's going to connect with you, even if you're the smartest guy or gal in the room. Dress, and again, it comes back to what you're trying to convey, right? It's even how you come up on the stage, getting out from me on the podium. Dress for who you're going to talk to, and don't talk in big picture CEO terms. If you're talking to a bunch of technology guys or gals that want to know the X's and O's of what you're doing, you're way up here, they're not connecting with you. Connect with what they want to hear you talk about. Same way I go show up for a board, I don't go in a tie-dye t-shirt and jeans, especially if it's an uptight board. And I say that because I've sat on boards. Some are very uptight, some are not. Some you can show up in jeans, others you can't. And so know that audience, because before you ever open your mouth, people are looking at you and they're going, oh, I can relate to that guy or gal, or no, I can't. Like, or why'd that guy or gal show up dressed like this? Like, who do they think? Don't they know who they're talking to? And I don't think a lot of people do this. And from the minute I know a speech is coming in, way before I ever prepare my comments or what I'm going to talk about, I go look at who I'm talking to. Company, an entity, the people, the group. And then I start visualizing that. If I'm sitting in that audience, or if I want to hear Bob talk about whatever, leadership or scaling a business or motivation or any of these things, leadership around government or private sector, whatever, it doesn't matter. I just did a talk the other day to United States Intelligence Organization. I've been to it a long time, but I love them to death. And I went out there and talked to 600 or 700 people, all young analysts. And I didn't talk like way up here. I talked down to where I used to interact daily on an operational basis, and this is years ago, with analysts, and they loved it. And I put all of my topics around that. So I think you bring this up. It's a very important issue. I don't think a lot of people do it, but I think you got to know your audience. And like I said, you know this way in advance. Nobody walks in your door at 2:00 and says, to go do a keynote in Florida at 4:00. It doesn't work that way. Or it doesn't even matter if it's a keynote. It's just an educational talk. So I think you have to know your audience. You have to know who you're speaking to, and pick what you're going to wear, pick how you're going to present it, and keep it interesting.
What are some of the other best practices that you use to engage the audience? I mean, I've seen you on stage and you'll say, let me underscore and stop and repeat this again. And you're very comfortable taking that pause, holding that attention, making sure that that audience is engaged. You welcome Q&A at the end. 9 times out of 10, you're booked for 15 minutes of Q&A and it goes 45. What are those best practices that you use to keep that engagement?
So here's one thing that I've done hundreds of times and no one's ever called me on it. And I think you can do it as a speaker. But what it does, it immediately instills confidence in the audience that you're a good speaker. I'll start and say, thanks, great to be here. Thank you, whoever brought me here. And then I'll say, hey, don't wait to the end. If you've got a question, raise your hand. You're not going to throw me off.
You're prepared.
Yeah. No one's ever asked me a question, ever. No one's ever stopped me 3 minutes in and goes, excuse me, could you back up? And no one, But what it does is it sets the tone for the audience that, hey, this guy actually is pretty confident of what he's talking about. Not cocky, confident. And I say that on almost every speech I give to. You got questions, don't wait, because you'll forget it. Ask me. No one does. No one does that. And so they wait. And so just a little trick for a speaker, because, may they ask you? Yeah. In hundreds, never. Everybody always waits. And then the more people ask questions, they get confident or whatever. But I think That's a big thing. And I think also that you can't, and this drives me crazy. And when I give a speech, I will have no slides, or I may have one slide. And it's a giant picture of my head that says Robert Anderson. And then when I come up, I click the slide thing and it goes away. So I don't use slides. I still see in presentations and boards and in keynotes slides that you can't read anything that's up there because it's all in single space print. And by the way, you're 50, 80, 100 feet away from it. Makes no sense. I immediately get irritated about it. The minute I see graphs, it makes me crazy. And by the way, you might not feel this way, but I do. And so I don't use slides. Remember, if I'm coming to talk about it, I'm probably the guy in the room that knows more about it than anybody in the room. You're the guy or gal that knows more about it than anybody in the room. I don't use slides. I think slides are a crutch. I think you have to understand how long you're going to talk. I think you can use slides to prepare as a speaker, and you can kind of run through it and go, yeah, about every 3 minutes, I'm changing the slides. So if I want to go 30 minutes, okay, if I have 10 slides, that's plus or minus, and kind of don't study it, but kind of understand the order you're going to go in the speech until you get to the questions and answers.
Well, I think that's a really excellent point because, I mean, how many times are you sitting there listening to a speech, somebody throws up a slide, it's filled with information, and you're immediately distracted from the speaker trying to read through and get through the slide. So you miss the first 5 minutes, whatever the person is saying, or again, like they use it as a crutch. They're so tied to the slide that you can't speak naturally and with confidence and engage. It's almost like you're reading a script, and you're too stuck with it.
Well, and I think immediately, I think you could poll people, and especially people our age that we're not kids. We've been out there a lot and done this. You could poll the audience. Like, here's the first slide. Don't even show them who's speaking. Could be Albert Einstein. Doesn't matter. Show them the first slide and say, are you going to listen to this or not? I guarantee you, if you polled an audience, most people go, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. Like,
but put the 4 points up so they see where they are in the speech, or they have the bottom line takeaways that you're going to be getting to, or
that's right. I don't use slides.
Or a visual that's going to hold their attention, because they're going to want to hear about this.
Yeah. I don't use slides. So if people want to use them, you got to, again, know your audience, and it should be big enough that anything you put up on that slide behind you, somebody can read in the last row, which means you can't put a lot of stuff up on an away. Anyway, so look, I'll give you an example. If I was going to use a slide, here's what I mean by big picture. Say I'm going to talk about China in any form, the government, the people, the intelligence services, my slide would have the Chinese flag on it.
Nothing more.
Nothing more. It wouldn't even say China. It had the flag. And people go, what the hell is that? Oh, he's telling me what that is. And then guess what? They stop looking at it and they look back at me.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's important. Again, this comes with time because, again, you want everybody looking at you. If you're afraid of giving a speech because you haven't done enough yet and you haven't practiced, which you need to do, that's going to make you uncomfortable. For me, I want that. I want you out. And here, this goes back to a point you brought up earlier. In those 10 slides that you may practice with at your house, wherever you're going to do, don't bring them with you. Don't put them up. Don't bring a computer. Everybody knows how much of a pain in the ass it is to try to get a computer to work with any of these different connectors when you go and nothing works. And 5 minutes before the speech, and you're frazzled as shit and you're getting ready to go up on the stage. Forget that. I don't even take note cards. And so again, it comes with time, but you're hurting yourself. But here's the biggest thing. In those 10 slides, or 12 or 100, I don't care what it is. Pick one thing that you think is ungodly important to this audience. One thing. And one of the very few things I think I learned ever in English going to high school, and I don't even know if this is English, so I'm going to make a statement, but a propensatory pause is one of the biggest things you can ever do in speaking. And this goes back to your point. I'm going to tell everybody what a propensatory pause is when I'm talking somewhere in my speech, probably midway through, because I know even if everybody loves me, they're getting tired. Right? It's 20 minutes. It's going to go another 15. I will stop dead wherever I'm at in the stage and go, now listen to me. This is important. And I'll pause. You will see if anybody is in that audience texting, got their head down, boom, their head comes up. What'd that guy just say? And by the way, I don't care if you listen to it or not. I'd like you to, because I think it's important. But my point is, I'm using that to draw you back in, right? Hey, listen to me. This is important. Don't talk. Stop. If you've never done it before, count to 3. And by the time you get to 2, you're going to be freaking out because you're going to think, oh my God, no one said anything in 2 seconds. Count to 3. Then talk. The whole auditorium is looking at you because they are, what is going to come out of this guy or gal's mouth next? That is one of the biggest things. And I came up with this years ago because I'm like, if I'm going to give a 45-minute speech to a bunch of people, like, I don't care how entertaining I am. It's like a podcast, right? How long can you listen to Bob? You know what I mean? So the reality is that's a secret that I think you plan in that series of slides that you practice with, but you don't use because you'll come off more natural. And when you're getting halfway through, maybe 3/4 way through, and you, by the way, you don't need to use my words. You can use whatever words you want, right? But the reality is, I think that draws people back in. And I think that's a big deal.
So I've seen you also give speeches in a variety of different formats. You've done, as you mentioned earlier, keynote speeches with large audiences, boardrooms, all-hand meetings with all the employees. I've seen you do fireside chats, but I know you don't like them.
Hate them.
Hate them. Why is that? Like, what is it about a fireside
I won't
chat?
do it. I don't care. I don't care if the president of the United States asked me to sit down with him in a fireside chat. I wouldn't do it. Honestly, I'm not kidding.
Because why?
Because you're not in control of the speech. You're not in control of what you're saying. Your whole, and by the way, everybody does fireside chats for a living and it's a business and they're trying to make money, hates me right now. But so then change how you do these things. The reality is my whole performance hedges on who's interviewing me. If I got a good interviewer, maybe I look good. If I got a bad interviewer, I look horrible. And if you make it bigger than Bob, so you got an interview and 3 people.
Yeah, more like a panel.
And the panel's disastrous to me because most of the time they try to pick a bunch of people from opposing companies that they're all vowing to talk the most and be the best so that they can try to get a client out of it, which drives me up a wall. And I just don't do it anymore. I don't do any of it. I don't care who it is. Like I just won't do it. Matter of fact, anybody that's booking speeches, that's the first question they ask. What is this, a keynote or is this Bob talking to a board or whatever? The minute the word comes out of their mouth, well, we're thinking about doing a fireside chat, I tell the people to hang up and say, thank you very much, but we don't do that. I don't. And by the way, that isn't me because like I'm better than everybody else. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you really want to control a speech, if you're going to be interviewed by somebody you trust, they know you're doing it because that's different. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm fine with that. But when you're just getting invited to do a fireside chat with 3 people or some guy or gal, you have no idea who they are.
You just met them as you walk up on stage.
And you know how this goes, right? You log on to a couple video conferences and everybody talks blah, blah, blah. I'm going to ask you this, going to ask you that. And then when you show up, they don't ask you any of that. And, you're supposed to have a half hour now because everybody ran long. You're only doing 15 minutes. Forget it. I just look, people can do them. I don't like them because you are taking out of the picture. You are not controlling your performance in front of that audience. It heavily relies on the individual that's interviewing you and it makes or breaks. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I've not had really good people interview me on fireside chats. But why do you think I'm negative on fireside chats? Because I've had a bunch of people that are horrible, right? And the message gets convoluted. People don't understand it. You know what I mean? They're talking more than you are because they just like to talk. And so I just would be careful. I don't do them anymore. I won't do them because unless, again, and I don't consider this a fireside chat. Like you see those, I don't even know what they're called sometimes where, they're interviewing actors or whatever. And there's like one guy interviewing an actor. But if you watch those, that's not a fireside chat. That's gone for an hour or 2. The person is a professional person that like asks a question and shuts up. And I'm sure they were all choreographed before then. That's different. But just traditional fireside chats or, panels, forget it. I just don't think it works.
But I think it's good advice, not only for the person speaking, for the person who's organizing the event. Remember, it's about the audience. And so how can you set this up to deliver the best value for the audience in front of you? Is it something you want them to learn, repeat, and take action afterwards? Is it something that you're just sharing knowledge about? How can you present this and get the most value out of the speaker who's taking the time to come and the time for this audience to participate?
No, that's right. And I think when you're first starting out speaking and you're doing it internally in like a conference room and then it goes up to a bigger room and then people start asking you to go do a fireside chat or go do a panel. I think you have to do that. I think you have to experience it. Don't just believe Bob. But this is kind of in your journey to becoming somebody that can give a keynote, can talk to boards one-on-one with nobody around. I think you do it to experience it because trust me, you'll see exactly what I'm telling you is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it helps you learn and ground you into applying yourself in the ways we've talked about that I think makes you come off better. But the bottom line to all this, honestly, is anything that looks easy is hard. Anything. I don't care what it is, right? And so if you see a man or a woman give a incredible keynote speech, they have given thousands of these things.
Mm-hmm.
You're not looking at the beginning, right? You're not looking at when Bob first, gave a speech in 1988 to three guys standing in a patrol room getting ready to go out on duty. Like that's not the same speech I give now. And so don't beat yourself up too much. You have to practice, you have to practice, you have to practice, and you have to go do it. And you're going to feel uncomfortable. And some of those key things we talked about, I think, will help you later on. And just remember, you're the expert in the room.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for tuning into the podcast. Thanks for coming back. Remember, man, peace, love each other. We need it. Thanks.